All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order since it's 6:30. Let's start by saying the pledge. Volunteer, and then we'll have a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Our first item is to ask if there are any amendments to the agenda.
You have not yet received minutes, so you won't need to
We have.
consider them. They'll be posted tomorrow, but they weren't ready in advance.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're not going to approve minutes. We'll approve them next time. Is that how we'll do it? Okay. Any public comments for items not on the agenda? All right. Let's just jump into the agenda. We have new business and we're talking about fiscal year 2025 and we're having budget discussion tonight. We're going to start with development. That's WIC, special events, land use.
Yep, and tonight we have Donna Swaney, who is president. Is that the official title? WIC? Chairman?
Yes, that sounds good.
All right, and Bob Flint with the Springfield Regional Development Corporation, who's the hired gun for WIC, in a good way. So folks want to go over what you've done, what you're doing, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, thank you very much for having us here tonight on the agenda. We appreciate being able to come and tell you what we've been doing and what we plan on doing. So as you may see from the sheet that I think you got ahead of time, WIC, WIC
I will, just a second. You sent it to me. It is in your electronic packet, but you don't have it in front of you. So.
Okay. So then let me be a little more detail oriented then. WIC, has partnered with Windsor Housing Trust and Evernorth to develop the Central and Main Workforce Housing Project behind the Windsor Diner. WIC's facilitated local and state permitting discussions in conjunction with the town, as well as with the successful efforts of the project. Finding through the various agencies. WIC successfully transferred ownership of this lot on December 23rd to the developers that are going forward. And I have to thank Bob Flint and Tom Marsh because the two of them I know have been inundated with papers and all kinds of information to get this through. It's taken quite a bit of bureaucracy, you might say. So it's on its way, and I think we'll see some activity there in the spring, some signs going up and some building going on. And that will be really nice to have that going forward. So WIC owns two properties on Jarvis National Street. We completed the renovations on Jarvis Street some time ago, and we lifted it because we wanted to show people about the how you can mitigate some of the flood issues in that area. I mean, we're all in the floodplain here in town. So, and we lifted the house to do that for flood resiliency. And we did a lot of work interior and exterior. I think you could probably heat the house on a match because it's so tight. The house is leased and it's occupied, and that's been ongoing for a while, and it's going quite well. And WIC and the town are continuing to look at the projects for the other lots that are there on National Street, hoping to be able to come up with some reasonable plans for them. Back this fall, Bob Flint and I went to the state downtown board this fall, and we presented very successfully the designated downtown renewal application before the state. And we are permitted for, it's 8 years now, correct? Am I correct, Bob? Yes. So the downtown, being part of the downtown program is very important for the town. WIC has taken over, has resumed management of the community's downtown program this fall. The downtown committee meets regularly, monthly, and has launched a sign project for downtown businesses as well, helping people renovate their signs, trying to make them more in line with the historic nature of our town. And and we also have done some activities, launched some projects downtown. If you look at the Tewksbury block, aka Doug Klein's building, a group of us got together, decorated those windows. They'd been empty for so long. We'd like to continue that kind of attractive work on windows and downtown, which is always attracting people to stop and look and see. And we have to thank Judy Hayward for loaning us the Abner Forbes quote dollhouse reproduction of a house that used to be in Windsor, where the M&T Bank is. It was a beautiful, beautiful house, and Abner Forbes built the Old South Church. So he's a very significant architect in our region. So we did those windows. We decorated we put up the Christmas tree. My hope is that next year we'll have more of an event around the lighting of the Christmas tree, and maybe do some more connections with Santa coming to town, those kinds of activities. And we look forward to this spring. We're working on some projects for this spring for beautification in the downtown area. So WIC owns properties, other properties, and the River Street Commerce Park, which AKA used to be the Goodyear building, and the Windsor Resource Center. And we contract with SRDC, Bob Flint's organization, to manage those properties. Bob, would you like to fill us in on what's going on in those properties? I'll let you handle that.
Sure. Thank you, Donna. Folks can hear me okay in the room? Yep.
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you. Apologies for not driving up this evening, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And so I'm Bob Flint from Springfield Regional Development Corporation, SRDC. We administer Windsor Improvement Corporation. And as Donna mentioned, specifically with the real estate properties, Heather Hartford from my staff and Donnie Griswold oversee the operation of the River Street Commerce Park, where we have 19 tenants that are housed, and the Windsor Resource Center in partnership with Mount Ascutney Hospital, and 11 tenants are currently operating out of the Windsor Resource Center. We've done a bunch of improvements to both properties this year, not sexy stuff, but a lot of code-related stuff, particularly at the River Street Commerce Park. We did receive state downtown tax credits that will be going to some additional code-related work this spring or summer. We and WIC work to make sure the facility is available for whatever community needs there are. The Veggie Van Gogh program still operates out of there monthly. I know it's used for dump days, and as well as some parking for that part of the town. You want me just to keep going, Donna? On
Yeah,
things?
please.
Okay. So just I won't repeat stuff Donna's already covered, but just one of my terms of art is sausage making. You don't want to know how it's made; you just want the finished product. And the Central and Main project is like a poster child of sausage making, as my friend Tom in the room would likely agree. So, there's still puzzle pieces coming in. Just this week, the governor announced a series of funds through the awards through the Community Recovery and Revitalization Program, and that included a grant, I think 300,000-ish. That's going to the Central and Main project. So, Lord willing, they've got their funding in place, and as Donna said, groundbreaking is expected this spring on that. I guess the one WIC piece I should mention that ties to the downtown program and beyond is the marketing committee. WIC has an awful lot of volunteers and dedicated folks that are on the board and serve on other committees. So WIC has a website, WIC has a Facebook, Instagram, social media pages. and is about to do promotional videos on behalf of the community. You'll be seeing an RFP, request for proposals, going out for that in the near future. And the hope is to have video product that then you could take little bite-sized things out of and market or promote through social media, including things like TikTok and Instagram and so forth. The funding in the town budget also provides support for our organization, SRDC, which serves as the Regional Development Corporation for this area. And as such, we kind of facilitate resources from the state, particularly the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. We also have within our office someone who does government contracting and someone from the Small Business Development Center. In fact, she and I were working with a Windsor client earlier today. Between all of us, we can help anybody, whether it's the single person looking to start a business or the largest businesses in the region. We were very involved with Simon Pierce on various aspects of their recent expansion, including facilitating a Vermont training program grant for them as well. We own the Blake Hill Preserves building in Artisans Park. We used to own the one next to it, which used to be a cheese company. Now is something else. And we recently, last week, the state announced the GROW program. I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but it's an effort through the Department of Tourism and Marketing to provide concierge service to people looking to move to Vermont. So we will be subcontracting and dealing with the leads for people that are coming to Windsor or have an interest in coming to Windsor, and working with the town and with WIC on trying to make sure that those folks have the information they need, that we present Windsor in the best possible light, and hopefully help in a small way to attract some new residents. We also have the Small Business Technical Assistance Exchange, which is a current program that helps businesses get, think bookkeeping, think website, technical assistance types of things that they might not be able to do on their own. And it match makes them with people in those fields and provides a small amount of funding. We have 2 Windsor clients for that right now. We're trying to get a third one to get into before the program closes. So that's a very fast overview of some things we do at SRDC, and between Donna and I, some of the things that WIC does for the community. And we appreciate the opportunity to be of service and happy to answer any questions.
Brian.
Donna, what kind of resources financially, like what does WIC have built up in the bank, I guess? Can they stand alone for a year, or how's that look?
I'll help you with that, Donna. Stand alone for a year is an interesting question, and remembering the funding, 30,000 of that 50,000 is what funds SRDC's work. I think there's a hope and an expectation that continues, and certainly we're making investments in the community ourselves, and WIC also pays taxes on everything. WIC and SRDC pay property taxes on everything we own in the community. So yes, there are some reserves. I'm not in a position to do that from memory, what they might be. WIC also has significant debt. I think WIC owes the town right now 100 and some odd thousand on the Jarvis and National Street projects.
Yeah, in that ballpark.
What page are you looking at, Ryan? What page?
4, it's just 50,000 right in the middle of the page.
Is it?
The allocation to them comes under economic development, which is in the administration section of the budget. So it's near the top of the expense section.
And that amount is down from, it used to be 90,000 not that many years ago. So it has been at 50,000 for, I'm guessing, what, past 5 years maybe, Tom?
Right.
Yeah, I think that ballpark 4, 5, 6 maybe. Yep.
What's the plan, the video project?
Yeah. So, and that's being partially funded through some of the downtown program stuff, but basically creating promotional videos that showcase the town as a place to live and work and visit. And again, that'll be standalone pieces that will be available to whether it's on Windsor on Air or on the WIC website or whatever. But more importantly to me is being able to have a library of clips and resources that we can use to promote the community through digital advertising. And again, I mentioned TikTok, but also Instagram, Facebook, whatever, little short video things like 10, 30 seconds. And we actually had the marketing committee met last night talking about this and what markets to target and keywords and so forth. I think the discussion last night was focused on outdoor recreation and how to showcase the river, how to showcase the hiking trails, how to, encourage people to come to the region, for that, looking at a campaign for the summer. So I think there's all sorts of possibilities, Ryan. The RFP, which is to get a firm to do this work. I know Mike Welker, who's the chair of the WIC marketing committee, is preparing that, and hopefully we'll have that on the streets in the near future.
Any other? Yeah.
I'm just going to be making a comment, so if there's a question.
Okay, the question. Okay. Yes, please. Yes.
Michael Quinn. Does the marketing committee publicize its meetings so the public could attend?
They don't, but they can. So typically the WIC marketing committee meets the
Third.
Monday. Well, the Monday before the WIC board meets. So usually the third Monday of the month.
Was
6 o'clock.
that-
I'm sorry, 6 o'clock. Third Monday. It's
Where?
virtual.
Where? I didn't hear.
It's virtual. Like
Okay. Was that committee appointed by the town?
No, that's a subcommittee of WIC.
So was WIC appointed by the town?
No. It's a standalone organization.
Okay, okay, great, thank you.
Okay, well, I'm the liaison with WIC. And since I've got on board with WIC, I've seen a lot of improvements already moving throughout the committee. Like for instance, we formed a subcommittee that's focused on downtown. I've met a lot of the folks in WIC, and they're community based, and they're working hard for the improvement of our community. I hear a lot of good things coming out that's going to bring the town in a good direction. I look at funding towards WIC as it's an investment for the growth of Windsor. And I think that's what this town needs a lot, and staying focused. We're trying to develop business, bring people in, get more exposure. I don't know how else we could do that without having a committed committee like WIC. So just to say, so far, my experience with WIC has been exceptional. They're wonderful people, and I see the hard work going on behind the scenes. So I just had to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I had a question about the GO program. Is it GO that you said, trying to help people understand more about the town and help them move into town? Is that what you called it?
Grow.
Grow.
Like growing up.
Grow. Okay. Is that for individuals or is that for businesses? What it was?
That's for individuals. That's for people.
Okay.
So, long story short is if you go to the state website for tourism, which is thinkvermont.com, there's something there where you can say, well, this looks great. I'd love to move there. And there's a little questionnaire you fill out, and you can select what areas you're interested in learning more about. So that will then filter down to, if it's, the Windsor area, will filter down to us. And it's our job to make sure we follow up with them and that they get the information they need. The state has just announced funding for this, like last Thursday. So it will be our involvement on. I went to a training actually last Thursday in Rutland, and I expect this will be rolling out probably Marchish. It exists now, but in terms of promoting it for folks from out of state to really take a look at it. So looking forward to working on it.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Brian.
What kind of traffic does that website get though? I mean, is it,
The state website?
people looking up things to move here?
So again, this program I'm not representing the state, but this is through the Department of Tourism and Marketing, and the I'll call it concierge service has existed without funding for the past 3 years. So it'll be interesting to see. This is the first time the legislature has supported funding for it, and to see what kind of traffic it's not going to bring thousands of people, but I suspect we might be dealing with probably 15 to 20 over the course of a year. I don't know. It's a pilot.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All set? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the
Coming
opportunity.
out.
Thank you.
Okay. A special event's a separate topic.
Yeah, I'll just development is one of those words that can be a catch-all. Sometimes development is fundraising in a nonprofit, for example. We have kind of rolled in a few years ago, special events, municipal marketing, as well as planning and zoning. So I'll touch on the planning and zoning portion first. As I think most know, Bob Haight had been our zoning administrator for about 10 years. He retired about a year ago. And we now have the two individuals that we're sharing on a regional basis. The net cost of having those two is somewhere in the mid 60s, which is about what it costs to have Bob here as well. So they've been working 6 months or so, and all three towns are satisfied with the service, and all of us have pretty active slates of what's going on here. It's the grow operation that's on the Artisans Park, the apartment complex, some work that we're doing. Hallie's working on the various, say, derelict properties that the town owns, and going through all the permitting in advance to say, here's the profile of these properties, put them out. Ryan's done a pretty good job on the permitting side, kind of cleaning up all three towns and taking good ideas from each of them. So it seems like it's a good model. We have a lot of depth, and it's not costing us any more than it used to. So I think that part's good. On the special events and things, this is part of Riley White, the assistant town clerk's salary goes into this. And she's handled all the concerts that the town does, whether they're on the Common or at the Exchange, things that you may not see. Like a few years ago, we went to Edgewater Farms over across the river. People wanted a CSA, but there wasn't enough track record here in town, so we would go over and pick it up there and deliver it either to the rec department or the Exchange. It grew enough that now Edgewater Farms comes here and does that. So is that marketing development? I don't know, but it's something that fell under their categories. The Christmas light contests, the decorations, went out, we got tree and the other holiday decorations. Wick decorated the tree. We have a consultant that publishes about 80 social media posts a month on our website and Instagram account. He goes out, he talks to the various merchants for things that they're looking to promote, does a pretty good job with the graphics and all of that kind of stuff. Some will see that there's a photo of the day or photo of the week that comes around on that. No, they're not Windsor photos. The idea is he reaches out to photographers, helps cross-pollinate, promoting their photos through our things. And we've seen, maybe a typical post will get views in the hundreds. We've had a few that have been in the 5,000-6,000 because it's a nice picture, it gets shared, it does whatever all that social media stuff does. So those are, I guess, the kind of things that give you from just somebody who rants on social media to become one of those influencers where they give you free stuff because you know how to do that hashtag and all that.
Paul's gonna be that.
Yeah.
Paul's gonna be that?
I'd make big money doing that. Yeah.
Oh, well, he got the
You gotta
personality.
follow me, I'll send it over.
Okay, we'll do that. So there's a lot of things that have been done in that office, and there were a few new things that we were trying before COVID hit, and last year was kind of just getting back to it. I've already talked to Bob a bit about maybe transitioning that social media piece over to
WIC, the holiday lighting stuff, like now that they're the downtown program and just the very short history, WIC was the downtown program. The town took that back because it didn't seem like a lot was happening there. We were managing it in-house. The state came up with a grant, a $25,000 grant that's supposed to be an annual thing to help support downtown programs. WIC really wanted that grant. So we had been working since the end of the summer. They applied for the grant, they got the grant, and we've migrated the downtown program back to that. And we didn't just want to make a hard stop of what's the town doing and what's WIC doing, but we're looking then, if that's what you're going to be, then you can do those. If you want to do the programs, you do them. If you don't want to do the programs, that's fine. Something that is, I guess it's a little budget oriented, is anecdotally, people like the concerts on the Common. Practically speaking, the same 30 people go to them every week, you know? And that's fine, and that seems to be the experience that a lot of towns have. And we've tried different locations and things like that. But, we've had a conversation with the school about, I think most people know the auditorium over there, the back wall opens up to the outside and that kind of thing. Then maybe get away from weekly or whatever it is, 8 concerts to maybe 2 bigger events where we take the same money, just things like that, that we're not looking to just do the same thing over and over again and not spend more money to do different things, but just to freshen things up a bit. And that'll still be, within our office. The rec department did that for years before Riley did it. And I guess the other big thing is the town now runs the Autumn Moon Festival. It's fallen under Rotary's banner. It didn't this year, but just the way it was working out, Windsor has a corporate Rotary membership, and James Aldridge would do all of the bounce house and rec stuff. They used to go out to a vendor that was done internally. Kevin McAllister would handle the porta potties and the lights, and that the police handled the security. A highway handled all setting everything up and the trash and all of that kind of stuff. Riley handled the lining up all the vendors and assigning the booths and all of that. So the town did it all. And it's all part, one way or the other, it fits into the disciplines they get paid for anyway. So it's kind of a big event to just put on the backs of volunteers. And, there's some really good people that did it year after year, but when those people cycle out, it's hard to keep the continuity. So, takes up a lot of time, but seems to be, well received by everybody. And then the money that is generated from that then is allocated back out into the community to, organizations that serve the community. There's some correlation that if an organization volunteers to do a lot of work on the night of Autumn Moon, that weighs into who's getting what. But for the most part, it's just, let's take the money and we'll divvy it back out. And then we keep enough seed money to start the, next year's process so that we can get that going. So development's land use, special events, and the Windsor Improvement Corporation. So that may have covered a lot of territory, but I'd be glad to answer any questions on that.
Questions? Okay. Next budget discussion is administration.
Administration essentially is this floor, all of the offices that are up here. Couple of notes that I make every year. I'm the only one who works a 40-hour week or is scheduled to work a 40-hour week. I'll put it that way. Everybody else is either 20, like 15 or 20 or 30 or 35. So none of the offices up here are scheduled 40 hours a week. So everybody but my office is closed on Fridays, for example. The second part is my salary, the treasurer's salary, the finance department salaries are all split between the town budget here and the water budget and the sewer budget. They're not all exactly the same, but most of them are like me. My salary, the cost of me is
60% to the general fund, 20% to the water department, 20% to the sewer.
That's why these are so low. I mean, for the amount of people up here, 185 seem, especially
Yeah.
your salary.
Yeah, when you look at the number of bodies up here between them not being full-time and the fact that 40% of the salaries are paid for by the other departments. And the rationale there is I am technically the director of public works. It's the normal organization chart would have a utilities manager or a public works director. There was a time in the past where Windsor did have an engineer that ran the utilities department. So we don't have that. So that falls under me. And then the financial offices all handle the billing for the utilities and things like that. They have to handle all the financial reporting. So that's why it's done that way. So things that have happened, recently at first is it's been about a year now that we've accepted credit cards and ACH payments, and that is a very popular option that's taken off. I think it's $1.50 for an ACH regardless of the amount. And credit cards, you pay 2.65%. So do not pay your taxes with a credit card. There are no mileage programs that pay you that kind of mileage. It's $1.50 to do an ACH. And it's a minimum of $1.50 if you use a credit card. So even if you get a dog license for like whatever one costs $13, you're going to pay $1.50. So use your credit card then. A couple of years ago, I would say as most know, but there seemed to be a lot of confusion about that for forever. The town had a elected treasurer and an elected town clerk, and that was part of the administration. We still do have that, but the day-to-day responsibilities, the town clerk is the marriage licenses, the dog licenses, run the elections, and handle the property transfer records. That is done by the assistant clerk that is appointed by the select board. The reason for that is both that office and the treasurer's office have got significantly more complicated over the years. And across the state, there have been people in those positions that have done them for a very long time and have done a good job, but are retiring. And when you are limited to finding someone to get up to speed to do that work, and you have to hire somebody with the biggest qualification being that they're a voter in your zip code, it really limits what you can do. So it's a fairly common practice now amongst towns to either eliminate the elected positions or to just do what we're doing in moving them to the assistant. So right now, the town clerk position is vacant. Riley White has been doing the job for several years now, does great work. With this coming March election, the same thing is happening with the treasurer's office. So the treasurer is now, a paid position with the benefits. The elected person in March will have, there'll be no salary, no benefits, no anything. The Natalia Kuma, who we hired about 7 months ago, master's degree in accounting, bachelor's degree in mathematics, and has really picked up the ball and she's ready to go. We're working on the transition process now, that she will become solely the day-to-day person. Right now, Deb and Natalia have been working together on that. So that's a pretty big change in the structure, but just the amount of state and federal money that comes through municipalities that has to be accounted for. The fact that we've taken on credit card billing, for example, that's another. We have the MyRec system. That's another way we collect money. The ambulance billing is another way. It's fairly complicated. So it's again not something to save money, but it's something to expand our abilities. And I would expect in the next couple of years, we're going to have other regional models like we have with the land use, with finance, assessors, that kind of thing. And just to be clear, the reason we have elected people in the treasurer's office and in the town clerk's office is the premise that, let's say you have a select board chair over there and you go and you say, hey, I want you to make sure everybody votes for me. And if you don't, I'm going to fire you or something like that to the town clerk. Well, you can't have that, right? So you have somebody who is accountable only to the people. And that's why even if it's a titular position, there's always somebody the community can go to that only answers to the public to make sure that the elections are straightforward, that the property records, nobody's putting their thumb on the property values that you have are transfers. And it's the same thing in the treasurer's office, that you don't want the town manager or the select board person coming and saying, hey, I want you to monkey around with my property tax bill. And if not, you're going to get fired. So you have somebody accountable only to the public. If somebody has a concern about municipal finances, there's always a person you can go to that doesn't have to answer to anyone other than the electorate. The other side of that, though, is if you look at the job description for the treasurer, they are the ones that are responsible for all of the town finances. It would not be a pretty thing if the elected person was the only one and was responsible for all the reporting, dealing with the auditors, all of that kind of stuff. So the technical requirements of that job in particular are much greater than the public good requirement that's there. So I don't know if that creates questions or answers questions.
Yes. Oh, Kathy? Oops, we can't hear you. How do we-
Okay, and there we go. Does our treasurer have to be bonded?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Cliff?
What amount of hours are they gonna be keeping the elected treasurer and the elected clerk? Because I'm seeing like, and the clerk's salary now, it's right, you're saying it's $1,000 for the year?
We'll work through it. When we went to the titular town clerk, there was a $14,000 salary that went along with it. There doesn't need to be a practical amount of money that's significant. What we expect to have happen is for the elected clerk position, they help out around elections. And this year is going to be a busy year because we have the primary in March and we have the general election in November and the state primaries in August. So they may come in and work a few hours, kind of like the way the justices of the peace do, but there's not a real, like, you have to come in every week and do a certain thing. The treasurer is the same thing, that maybe come in when the tax bills are due to help collect things through the window and the utility bills are due to come through the window. They can come in and be familiar with what's going on, but there won't be a specific task that they have to complete. So there may be a stipend that says, hey, if you're going to come in and work 20 hours during election week, well, you'll make a few $100s, that kind of, at the end of the year, maybe it's a couple thousand or more than that. If it expands beyond all of that, that'll be just something where we're moving around responsibilities within the administration. So I don't know that it would cost any money. It would just be different people doing different things.
Questions? Any others? Okay. Municipal insurance.
Okay, well, this is one of those. I give myself a budget. Hang on a second. These are all like our liability insurance, workers' comp, healthcare, and they're found on page 14. I think there may be one on the bottom of 13 and 14. So our liability and workers' comp insurance, I handle through an organization called Passive. Let me tell you off the top of my head what that stands for, but it's a arm of the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. All municipalities use them, and I guess maybe we could go someplace else, but I don't even know that we have that option or if anybody else sells that in the state. But if that were the case, I think I would know more about it. we're all kind of self-insured through this pool, and they provide very good service. That said, I'll bring your attention specifically to, let's see, if you go down to our workers' compensation, you'll see that's an $81,000 or 53% increase. We had a couple fairly significant claims in our emergency responders department, people who were injured in their line of duty, broken bones, things like that. And if we pay like pennies on the dollar for our administration workers' comp insurance because we generally don't get hurt up on this floor, I think we're paying maybe $10 on 100 on our fire and police. So when something happens there, they get hit, and that's not just Windsor. That's how the pool works. So I'd say in general, it's been a couple of years, but we had their state or like safety consultant come through and go through our departments and recommend workplace safety. If anybody's been through here, you may have seen the desks that elevate and go down in different chairs. That was all paid for a grant through that program to help, alleviate things like carpal tunnel or back problems from sitting all day. And safety is a big part of what fire and police and our utilities do for training. But, a lot of what they do is in a very hazardous environment and things happen. So I think this is just more a matter of bad luck rather than bad safety practice on that part. But it's a big hit in a year where we don't need big hits. If you look closer to the top on page 14, you see our health insurance deductible and our health premiums. That reflects what we saw from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Vermont for the premium increase. It's not added people on the plan. That is an area where we can save money or get whacked because I think a full family plan costs in the neighborhood of $25,000. So you go from somebody who doesn't need health insurance to hiring a replacement that needs that, that's $25,000. And you can't say, well, excuse me, are you going to need family insurance? No, I'm sorry, we can't take you, you take what you get.
Is it still a silver plan you offer?
What we offer is 85% of the value of the silver plan. So then all the employees can then take that value, and if they want to choose to pay extra and buy the gold plan, they have to pay the difference between 85% of the silver and the gold. If they want to trade down and get the bronze plan, you can get that without having to pay any monthly premium, but your personal exposure, your out of pocket goes up significantly. So different employees measure their risk, but they get to make that decision. We don't dictate to them. Those terms are provided for in the personnel plan and in our labor contracts. The line above that, health insurance deductibles, $160,000. We offer, for those on a single or a two-person plan, we pay, for a single plan, we pay the first $4,400 of out-of-pocket expenses. For two people and family, we pay the first $8,800. So we budget for approximately half our total exposure, because you don't really know how that goes. It gets a little extra tricky because both that and the premiums are calendar year. So we have the new healthcare premiums from Blue Cross, but that goes through December. So that'll only take us halfway through this year. So kind of as a practice, we've been throwing in 10% for the second 6 months. And it is one year that was a little high, but most years that's not quite enough. When, just maybe people don't see this behind the scenes, but when you hear about insurance companies going to whatever that Blue Care Board or whatever, Green Mountain Care Board, they go there and they say, hey, we need X percentage increase in our premiums. And they say, well, that's not possible. That's too much money. You can't do that. You got to bring it down. And then by magic, they come back and they say, well, okay, we don't need to go up 20%. We can only go up 12%. What do you think of that? And they say, well, that's fantastic. Well, they didn't all just decide to make less money. I'm sure people have seen it in their own plans, where they start moving around the co-pays and the deductibles and the out-of-pocket expenses and things like that. And I would say, in the time that I've been here, there was, I never heard anybody saying about how expensive the health care plan was. There had been frequent, I'm going to say surprises. They shouldn't be, but that's how we all are. You hope nothing happens, but you have a family plan and your kid breaks their arm on a bicycle and you happen to get sick and you know, need your tonsils out or whatever it is. Things that aren't major things start adding up and you hit, we had one employee $7,000 out of pocket. It's because the same thing, always had this over plan, all that kind of stuff. And how come I had to pay this year? And you can go back and look at how the plans have changed and how the out of pockets have changed. So, again, those are, in our employment contracts, they're, expensive, but not out of line. I mean, as far as what the coverage goes. But that market is changing quite a bit. And, that's a line that the premiums anyway took a pretty big shot in this year. Other things that can kind of fall into that category is the pension background. For say several decades, the town, this is still like I'm 14. The town had its own pension plan, and you can see pension contributions of $25,000 in there.
We got what, 2 people on that one?
There are a lot of retirees on it, and we have, handful, maybe more than 2 employees. Several years ago, the town switched to this VEMR's, Vermont Municipal Employees Retirement System pension. And the basic difference between the two, there's a lot of difference in the detail. Both of them are pretty good plans. But every year we would have to wait for the actuarial report on our town plan. And if the stock market had a dump year, they would say you're only 90% funded and you need to put 200,000 into your plan. The next year, the stock market's up fantastic and it says, oh, you're 97% funded and you only need to put 30,000 in. So it's very difficult to budget to that. I will say the town has always been well-funded in their pension plans. Years ago, maybe people hopefully weren't impacted by it, but businesses would have pension plans, but they wouldn't fund them the way they were supposed to. It's an easy line item to take out when you're spiraling down into bankruptcy. So then the business goes out and they find out that there's no money in the pension plan. That's a really bad thing. That's never happened. That kind of not funding it's never happened here. The nice thing about the VEMR's plan is that is a plan that is managed by the state. The state sends the towns that participate in it a little notice saying last year you paid 7.25% on payroll. The employees have to contribute as well on a variety of scales depending on the plan they pick. The town is 7.35 now, and there may be one that is 10, but we know the percentage of our payroll that we have to pay, and it goes in and the state managed the whole thing. So we're not paying an actuarial firm to do all of those employees. The other nice thing, I think we've benefited more than we've hurt from it, is if an employee leaves a town that has a VEMR's pension plan, they can carry that plan to another town that has that same. It's all a Vermont thing. So sometimes we get employees because we go, oh, you're in VEMR's? Yeah, I'd like to come. I'm sure we have lost employees, but not for that reason. But if somebody's looking to move, that can be a key component if you're not in it. Other than that, I think that's the exciting world of municipal insurance. It's a big ticket that nobody really sees, and it's one of those areas that has become much more expensive over the years.
Questions? Comments? Yes, Emma. Emma.
I will say, just in my first budget season, I'm finding it's so hard to hear you, Tom, like defend the benefits that the employees of the town are getting, because I don't know a lot and new here still, but in a lot of ways, but I find every interaction that I've had with anybody that works for this town, y'all are working as hard as you can and you're working your asses off, even if y'all are even here 20 hours a week. So I'm hoping when we're looking at things that we need to mess with, we're not messing with this particular aspect of the budget with the municipal employees. I'm finding that in this discussion. I want to put that out there. And I also want to say, just out of curiosity, how often do we shop our insurance people, Tom? Like, if we're seeing that really big increase in our, what we need to mess with for safety insurance, like, are we looking at somebody else and seeing if they want to offer us a better deal? Like, I'm not really sure how often it makes sense to look at those changes
Where
for
do
the
you
town.
live? Shop for your health insurance? We're in Vermont.
Dang,
We
I
have-
don't know.
So it is unusual for us. There's MVP and Blue
I'm
Cross
gonna mute
Blue
myself.
Shield.
My dog, sorry.
What's that?
She's muting herself.
Oh, okay. So what we do is we provide a value to the employees. This much money, this much money is 85% of the silver plan. They can buy from MVP if they want to. They can
I'm unmuting myself. I apologize. I for the health insurance part, it makes sense to me what y'all are doing. My question is, like, just from not the health insurance part, like the safety.
Workers'
like-
comp. I think the workers' comp was the big one that changed that.
Okay.
That was the big one, was the workers' comp.
So
Okay. So my
this-
question is, like, are we looking at somebody, or no, we can't really look at somebody else, I guess.
Well, and that's, if I'm wrong on this, I'm more than happy to have somebody tell me how I'm wrong. I talk to a lot of my peers. No, I'm not. It's when it comes to our,
Not
like
gonna
I
be
said, our liability and workers' comp, every municipality uses passive, and it's part of being in that system, and they all pool the risk. It's a big self-insured pool. So there is nobody's ever called on me. I'll put it that way too. I've never had an insurance salesman say, "Hey, is Windsor interested in seeing what we could do for you for your property and casualty," for example. The other side of it is with the healthcare. I don't know if in the private sector is different and you can get Cigna or Aetna or whoever else is left out there. But the only options we are ever given are Blue Cross Blue Shield of Vermont and MVP. And my understanding is they are the two approved insurance vendors in the state. And rather than the town saying you have to take the Blue Cross plan or the MVP plan, we let them shop it. But it has never come up that there is one of the names that you may see on the side of a football stadium that we have access to here in Vermont.
Okay, heard. Thank you.
Kathy?
Unmute Kathy.
Kathy, you're muted.
Can municipalities take advantage of health savings plans?
That's what this health deductible line item is. So what we have an HRA, a health reimbursement account. The employee incurs the expense that comes out of that. And if they don't use it all, the town keeps the money. Health savings account, the money goes to the employee. And if they
Right.
don't use the entire amount, they can put that into a fund to help build up to pay for their health care.
They have a debit card that they can pay that is funded by the town. They can pay their premiums or prescriptions or things with now.
Right, okay. Thank you.
And Emma, as far like, so I'm talking out of turn here, but as far as like messing with these benefits, 90% of it is contractually obligated through our collective bargaining agreements. So there's only a few that, I mean, we can't really cut any of this.
I think there's only 2 employees that aren't covered either by an employment contract or a union contract that doesn't dictate what the healthcare benefits are. And we do, just to
throw it out there. We have several employees that get their health care elsewhere because they've, say, retired from a state police organization where they get life health care and things like that. And what we'll do in those instances is we will offer them the, like the $8,800 in the family plan, because it's not uncommon from say, oh, heck, this is a good plan here. I'll drop what I have. And we go, no, please don't. That'll cost us $25,000. Why don't you keep what you have? And then we'll help you pay your out-of-pocket expenses with that plan so that they get a benefit from it, but we don't see the full cost.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
I know it's not an item, but that's the end of the budget categories.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I did distribute, and it's available online, a budget with some reductions
Yep.
that could be considered. I think they're in red,
Yep.
and it brings the potential tax increase from about 15% to using the marketing strategy of 5.95 rather than 6. That's what those things do. The big nut is not putting any money into our savings accounts. And as I've mentioned, both of those accounts have pretty healthy balances. You can't go on doing that all the time, but this is a tight year. And I think even at home, people are having a hard time finding money to put into their savings account when they're paying what they're paying for groceries and whatnot. So the thought there is, as long as we don't have to take anything or anything of real significance from it, we're in pretty good shape. And we will then incrementally, like in subsequent years, we won't have to go back to that full amount funding. We could start incrementally, depending on what the budget looks like, to put in, whether it's 10 or 50 or 75,000 or something like that. The other thing is all of the payroll and associated line items were reduced 1%. It doesn't sound like a lot because it's not, but the numbers that are in there are based on our union contracts and employment contracts for the people that we have working now. And it's certainly 100% likely that we're going to have some employee turnover. And some of those people could come in making less than the people who are making now. It's also possible that they could come in making more because they have X number of years of experience or things like that. So no position has been changed. This is just saying, let's cut it closer to the bone. Same thing with all of the other line items there. The one thing I caution about, sometimes it looks like, well, gee, you didn't spend much last year. How come? Well, because last year was a tight year. And just like the other day, I go to the department heads and say, please stop spending on anything that is not 100% mandatory. So they all make decisions. And if it's the fire department and they need, bunker gear, then, the big heavy raincoat things, it's time to replace everything. And they like to keep them somewhat, on a rotation. It's similar. So you don't have ratty ones or good ones. They say, okay, we were going to buy X number. Now we won't buy any, we'll buy 2. So past years have seen, this sounds like everybody didn't get what they wanted every year. So gosh, everybody's suffering. That's not the case. This is just part of running any business or running any town. You have to make priorities with the money that you have. But no services were cut. No people were added. All of these reductions are just saying, don't put money in the savings account and let's, just cut it closer for the next year. I do, well, while this is still a number that is much bigger than anything that I've seen in my time here, in a measure of self-preservation, unless somebody says, I want less of some service, I could be sitting here this time next year explaining to you why we are getting buried in our budget, because gosh, we're going to end the year with a $250,000 deficit because nobody said they wanted less. We just said, I don't want to pay this year. And that just digs a hole for the next year when we didn't put anything in our savings account. So I can make that tax increase number whatever the board and the committee wants it to be, but you're getting into territory where I think it could come back to bite.
Well, let me ask a question, which I think I know the answer to. We had all that ARPA money and I know it had limited or restricted use, but has the fact that we gave ARPA money for certain things, and I'm just thinking the library, for example, we had extra money, we gave it to the library. I'm wondering if that is reflected in a reduction in some of the requests.
I don't think so, because running down the list real quick, like the library is a good example.
Yeah,
They didn't put it towards operating expenses or that kind of stuff.
Yep.
They built that elevator with it. So
I thought we had extra though, that at the end we said, here it is.
it was like,
I thought they got funded for the elevator and we still had the money that we said we'd.
they got
I
30,000.
thought they had extra they used to finish their floors.
Yeah, they had
Oh.
other maintenance work.
Other things,
they did.
okay, I
It's like Paradise Park, I don't think they spent all the money on the chimney that they fixed, but it was like $1,000 left over. There is still some money in there that starts getting in. I would rather say, well, we didn't put any money into our savings, so at the end of next year, we say, look, we still have 20,000 left in the ARPA money to put that into our capital reserve. The stuff that the town bought, it's one of the, it's harder to see money that, since what we bought isn't in the budget, it doesn't look like we saved any money. But we've had money going into the capital reserve for a fire truck for forever.
Right.
And 200,000 of that truck is getting paid for with ARPA money, and whatever 500,000 is getting paid for with that grant.
Right.
So there's that, we still don't have a ladder truck. So it's not like, hey, look at this, we're golden here. It's just, hey, we're in better shape than we would have been.
Yeah.
Things that would have come out of capital are, and I won't go through the whole list.
Street light and.
Yeah, well, the fire department had a generator that fills up the air packs. Yeah, so you need that. And ours was pretty much out of commission. They were going to other departments and stuff to fill it. So there's no carry forward of operational cost to it, but that's something that would have been in the budget, eventually out of our capital budget. That it's things like that say, well, we got a new set of jaws of life. We got that generator. We got a fire truck. We're fixing the buildings over at the pond. There's money in it to fix the gazebo at the fairgrounds. There's line items in the capital that say, let's fit, money to fix. Like we still need to do some work at the Welcome Center and things like that. But because of all that ARPA money going to things that would have come out of capital, it's made it a little easier to say, let's not put any money in capital. We'll be able to do it this year because we're still making progress on keeping up with stuff that is wearing out.
Other comments or questions? While we're still budget talking. Kathy?
Yeah, I remembered to turn the sound on this time. We've all recognized that the taxpayers are under the same amount of pressure the town is under. I mean, we've got, all the prices, everybody's insurance is up, food is up, all the general expenses. I've been looking at or listening to what the governor said. He wanted to keep the Vermont state budget at 3%, which probably won't happen, but that's what he wants. Social Security gave a 3.2% cost of living increase. And the Consumer Price Index came out on the 11th, and they're saying that it's a 3.4 increase in the cost of living. So we're talking about almost a 6% increase with the town budget. So I'm trying to find balance, and I really can't find good places to cut. We want our police, we want them well supplied, same for the fire department, same for recreation. I'm willing to give up a dump day or 2 dump days if that'll save us some money. But I just don't have any good suggestion to keep the town we love working the way it is and still give the taxpayers a break. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, I think economics can be pretty much all voodoo if that's what you want to do. I saw the other day that a grocery basket that cost $100 in December of 19 costs $126 now. So inflation is only 3%, but it's 3% on top of 26% that occurred over the last couple of years. Now, everything didn't go up 26%, but we're seeing an awful lot of things that did with wages. And when we look back on our tax increases the last few years, they were in that 3% category when the rest of the world was doing more. And that's what I think last year, if we would have been more at 5%, this year would be better. But we really got hammered with the wages. We got hammered with insurance. So there isn't a magic bullet. It's just everything has gone up. And I think we're a bit behind the curve on looking at a tax increase that goes up behind. I don't know how they compute Social Security. I imagine most people on Social Security are not happy with their cost of living increase goes. So there are,
Because the health insurance part of it went up like 6. Well, it depends on your income, but some in my range went up. The health insurance cost went up 6%. So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Brian.
Do we have any unfilled positions that are currently vacant that we could look at removing?
No.
Do we have any attrition coming up? I mean, I know we got some retirement, but we got some plans. Right?
Yeah, it's like, again, I won't go through everybody, but we have 4 people running our water and sewer department.
Mhm.
We can't do it with 3. Someone's going to retire, but we're going to have 4. Maybe we save something on what the person comes in making. We have 4 people in our highway. No, we brought somebody in to replace somebody who's retiring. We can't do the highway department with 3. As I said, all of the positions up here are not full-time.
Yeah.
The rec department, I'd say that's the one department that, it's really exploded in what is offered. And there are more people working there today than there were 5 years ago. But they're open 7 days a week. I mean, I don't forget the number of hours, but 7:30 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. You don't do that with one person. There's Harry Ledoux, if you're watching, you are an amazing fellow. Thanks for all the work you did. But like James and his buddies over there, they work hard. And when they were in here, they talk about all the other things that they do to other folks. So it's my constant thing that we have all of the services, but we have basically the minimum number of people to do it, to provide it the way the town wants it provided. I think police is an example where you look town to town with similar populations. We're spending $1 million, and I don't know, Hartford's spending less than 100,000. Heartland, yeah. You pick to do that, there you go, you saved $1 million. I can tell you, I will have a difficult time being the town manager in a town that's got a $75,000 police budget in Windsor. So that's just, and I didn't do it this year. I did it 2 years ago. This is the sales pitch, that our tax bills of the 24 towns in Windsor County, we were ranked about 13th. Like on how the value of your tax bill, how much it cost. There are no towns that have a lower tax bill, that have a paid police department, paid fire department. The ones that are lower are towns like Reading and, places that basically have a highway department, a very thin administrative department. So
Volunteer fire.
yeah, so that it's just, we're not at the high end, and then I don't know what the number is these days, but our school budget, I'll bet you, is more than $16 million right now. And we collect somewhere in the neighborhood of $7 million in taxes. The rest of that's paid for, that giving town, sending town kind of thing. So between, we'll just say 16 million for the town or for the school and 6.5 for the town, we're at, my math was good, with $22.5 million, and we're collecting 12. That's the Windsor residents pay 12, and then they get homestead rebates on top of that. So
this isn't to say come skipping into the office and pay your taxes or use the ACH for only $1.50. But what it does say is you're getting an awful lot of services, whether you use them or not, at a price that is lower than any other town that offers that kind of thing. So it makes it hard in a year like this. We just have a lot going on.
So let me just clarify something I already think I know. Cemetery care, the town does all the care for the cemeteries, right?
Contracted, yeah.
Oh,
well-
well, I mean, but we pay for it.
Kathy, nod your head. This is what I don't know. There's 30,000 in the budget this year for it.
Yep.
In the past, we would give a stipend, or the cemetery association, and still is a item voted separately. I think that's $20,000.
Always forget to turn that on. Yeah, a Scotney Cemetery requests the 20,000.
Yeah.
To help with the maintenance there. The 30,000 is used for Old South, Houghton, and Hoisington. And some of that goes to a Scotney Cemetery, the mowing, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way it had been, and it may even have been this past summer, the town would provide the allocation to the cemetery association, and then the mowing bills were paid for out of the cemetery association allocation. But it's kind of apparent you're paying 30,000 for mowing and they're only getting 20. It's not sustainable. And there has been an awful lot of interest in maintaining the tree, better job managing the tree, better job managing the headstones and all of that kind of stuff. So that was the thought process that went behind that. And as we all can
So
remember.
we own the cemetery. The town owns all the cemeteries in town?
No, just
Actually, no,
3 of them. The town owns 3.
And what are the other ones?
St. Francis.
Oh,
Yeah.
St. Francis, we don't maintain St. Francis. Okay,
Correct.
okay.
We could, I know when I was working on Old South Cemetery a year ago, James Hoff and I were discussing the possibility of leaving it unmowed, certain areas of of Old South unmowed and just letting them grow up. But because it's in the center of the town near our historic church, we came to the conclusion that, you know, how all the comments in the surveys talked about how run down our downtown looks, that I thought anyway, that it would be a mistake to allow it to grow wild.
and for all the talk we do about people not being involved in town government, with Linda and Kathy here, the cemetery folks are very well represented in their interest in the community. And they're not here just for that, you know, both are.
Okay, no, I just didn't know who owned the cemeteries. I just had never,
Well, ask Old South, who owns Old South Cemetery. We could have the,
not Old South, right?
I heard somebody once say that they own everything that works and we own everything that's broken.
I heard that.
we fixed the clock this year, we being the town, because the town owns the clock. And we work well together in doing what we can to maintain the Old South Cemetery, whoever owns it.
Which is much appreciated. It's one of those things where you see, I think you've got that marked, don't you, Tom, on the possible reductions?
Cemetery?
Yeah,
Thought you threatened me if I would do that.
What page?
my pages aren't numbered, so.
Is there that can't be, it's up in the highway thing?
Okay, yeah.
Hang on. This highway department goes on forever.
There's wages, cemeteries, we've got 30,000. And then over in the right-hand column, possible reductions, 2,000.
Oh, okay. Gotcha, yep. So I would like to have a number that I could put into a warning so that next week you would vote on the budget, the warning, the capital budget, all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, we'll have to have another meeting on the 31st.
Paul, before he left, said he had another comment to make. So let's hear what he has to say.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Just as, so whether or not you do all the things that I've presented already, I think the number was 63,000 to reduce it another percent.
In addition to what you've already said.
Yeah, like, so let's say you say, well, I don't want 5.95, I want 3.95. You need $190,000.
And I'm assuming no one within our budgeting process has offered to give up money. Thought it just says, okay. Paul, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yep.
Who also wants to speak? It doesn't.
Whoever, they go first.
Cliff, you want to go?
Cliff.
I had to bring my whole budget.
Oh,
I had to run out the house quick to get here. Anyway, one of the things I had noticed to all the departments is the communications costs. And just kind of curious, so do we use the same vendor for all of our communication needs? And is there any way to renegotiate possibly better contracts with, I assume that's phone and data costs when you have communications.
And we use SovereignNet with a fiber optic system, piggybacking off the school's contract. So yes, there are other, we went probably 7 or 8 years ago from, I'm really talking about stuff I don't know about, but we had an in-house phone system that we owned the phone system to this, to where I think we lease the handsets, that kind of thing. And you know, it's more, we don't have a thing hanging on the wall downstairs that says, here's your phone system, and then have to call. So we have, however it works, we have $9 a month or something like that.
Voice over IP system that has eliminates all of the old hardware by doing it digitally. And those have gotten kind of competitive. And I think might be something to revisit. I had a number of clients that went from the old systems going into moving into other, you know, putting it out for bid.
Sure.
And getting back that number of bids where please Comcast offers the same service. Fortunately around here, I think we may be limited to retail and Comcast, but it's probably worth putting their toes to the fire. I think the one that would flinch more would be retail if they know that Comcast might be coming to improve that. But, I mean, that's not gonna.
No, well, I mean, that would just be.
Department spending $7,000 to $8,000 for communications, like it looked like.
Yeah, and it's cell phones too. It's like, and it's not just that, but it's a point. I looked to, when we needed a new system, we went to the school and we said, what are you doing? And they had just gone through that whole process and came up with this SovereignNet thing, how it all worked. And they can be helpful if we need it, if we need technical support on the system. But I can get a hold of those folks over there just to make sure we're keeping everybody honest.
Yeah. It's a very fluctuating market. And I noticed we were up on the computer, the contracts for that not like $8,000. You reduced it a little bit, but it was at 27.
Let's see here. Hang on, we'll get there. Computer services. 19 to 27, that had to do with, and I bring that down 3. Several years ago, we went from one vendor who wanted 60,000 to the school that wanted, at the time, 14. So we went to school. We have some older equipment that needs to get cycled out. We really haven't been doing much of that. One of the things that, it's not a lot of money, but it's a couple $1,000. When we switched over, they used the Google
suite platform. And the intention here was to adopt that straight up and then not have to pay for the office subscriptions and things like that. It turns out it's just not robust enough. It turns out the school's finance office can't use sheets. They have to use Excel. And we saw internal problems with going back and forth. The police department can't use anything but Word and Excel because they're connected to the state police thing. So I don't know, it's like $129 a year for a bunch of Excel licenses. So that probably adds $1,500 that we're budgeting for the first time this year because we kind of gave up. I mean, we still have a number of employees using the Google Suite thing, but that's what's going on there. An Adobe Acrobat license, that's not very much, that allows us to create our own forms, that's getting more into the finance and the zoning office. And a few workstations. And hopefully we will be out of the, like we still have a server here, but that's a couple of lingering things, mostly the assessors stuff, but that'll all get updated when we finish the reval. So that'll cycle out all that.
So the school increased what they're charging the town,
Just a couple $1,000. Yeah, that's,
but it's not a lot more than a couple thousand.
well, it went up 8. I think
Yeah.
they were charging like 15 and it went to 17.
And what are they're providing what, help desk service and
Yeah.
questions and that kind of thing?
Right.
They're doing?
And there are some other, we pay CCI a monthly fee for some kind of in the background service that's going on. I mean, there's some other little contracts that are in there besides what they get paid. They run the contracts through them for what we need, but it's not all just what they get. But I'm going to say 17,000 for the IT help, which they've been very good with.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So, yeah, I spoke with some seniors too, with some folks in the town. I got around a lot to talk with folks about the budget, people that don't know about it. You know, I've been a member of the body. When I started off, I'm always for seniors. I wish I put more work towards our seniors, like the type of work that Tara puts towards her recovery. I wish I had that further. I don't, but our seniors are absolutely close to my heart. And when I know that they're getting 3.2% of a cost of living increase, and then there's just your general cost of living that is hitting everyone between the eyes. And we're normally at like 3.5%, and we're looking at a 6.5% raise. I have a hard time with that. Okay, and speaking with some folks, it's like, you know, as much as I love our services, it's becoming extremely difficult to afford. And I care more about my house, my yard, and everything other than the services are great, but I'm really concerned about my home, concerned about the heating, concerned about the food. People with fixed incomes, this is very difficult. This is a big pill for someone to swallow if you're on a fixed income. Me, I can finagle, I can work my second, my third, and my fourth job. And I have an ability to navigate this and to earn money and to offset this. We have residents that cannot afford this type of an increase. That is my concern, and that is a big concern to me. So we're at 6%. I would have to, I know they cut payroll. You're saying that like 1%. I'm requesting for department heads to dig a little bit deeper if they can, try to get a little bit more of a cut. I know people are bound from unions. I know you can't change some schedules for some reason. And all these little bounds and bells and whistles that come with the big union contract. But in order us to retain employees and still try to get this number down even more, which is 4.5 is the most I'm not going to say yes to. Other than that, you lose me. If it's a union thing that is binding this, and sorry, we can't make any more moves because of the contract. Well, I still think the union has to be spoken with and say, before we start losing personnel, you better start making some moves, talk with your people so something can happen here. to retain employees and get this to 4.5. Anything after 4.5, I apologize, but I cannot approve, given the circumstances, and I know too many folks in this town can't afford it. Services are big, but as I hear someone concerned about heating and eating, that means more to me. So I know it's a tough one. It's a big cross for our department heads to carry. All the department heads wanted these monies to come in. The municipal employees got the monies that came in. But, for our folks to bear that cross to this extent, I think is unfair because they're not doing well. So my comment is anything under 4.5, I'm out. That's where I'm at. So that's what I'm hoping to see, some more maneuvers and whatever conversations have to happen, let the conversations happen. But that's where I'm stuck at. That's still a point and a half higher.
So you're asking for department
I'm
head.
asking for department heads to maybe, if they can, take a look at it. How can we get with the combination, what that additional 1.5% would be, and see if we can get closer to that. Because I still think 6 is too, 6 is still too high. I know the payroll thing got us, but I don't think the town should be taking the brunt of it.
What's the money to come down 1.5%?
A percent, say 65, 63,000, something like that. But I will tell you, there is nothing to be saved in your
Tightening
scenario.
budgets.
We don't have a big union. We have little unions. We don't have problems with people not doing shifts. We sometimes have trouble attracting people because people don't want to take on the fun shifts. But we don't have, UAW, 15,000 people working in here making all these. We got 4 people on the highway who work when they work on the highway.
yeah.
So, all we did was become competitive. So I understand the frustration. I mean, I'm the one that's worked with the department has put these numbers together. And when it's, well, go find some more, that doesn't count. That we don't want service on Saturday. That counts. I talked to Deb Olmsted the other day on Kansas. They don't plow the side streets when it snows. Now it's different. It's Kansas. If you want us to do less plowing, we'll do less plowing. You don't want the snow out of town, downtown after it snows, I'm okay with that. Like, I don't have a vested interest in any of the services here. But I don't, to be the advocate for the other side, whether people wanted to participate in it or not, 60% of the people who answered the survey said that they were okay with what they were paying with taxes. 2/3 of the people who voted for the budget last year voted for the budget. Nobody has said they want less. And I have a particular problem in a community that's looking to improve itself to say there's a component that doesn't want to spend the money. So the people who do can't have the service. Like, you're not getting your road paved because some people don't want to spend the money or can't. I'll put it can't. Cause I mean, I 100% get it. You don't have the money to pay. You don't have the money to pay. The state does a pretty generous job, I think, with the homestead rebate and what it does on the education side, but that doesn't help the town side. But there is the other side that says, I want my sidewalks better. I want my street better. I want the police to be there. I want something done about the addiction problem in town. We love the rec center. I like the prices we pay. So
To get to where Paul's asking, we're talking about laying off a policeman or a fireman or half the rec department.
Well, it can't be the rec department. Fire and sewer and highways, 4 people, 3 people. Yeah, so I would have to say, unfortunately, if there's not a magic bullet that could bring this down even more, then if it comes to having to be a layoff, which is the last thing that I would ever want on the planet, it still boils down to people affording to be able to live with the cost of living that they're getting hit by too. Everyone got a raise. I said it out of the gate. Gotta be careful what we ask for. People are they love people, but it's gonna come to a point, people can start saying, we I love the services, but we gotta cut the services. I hate to say it, but how we're gonna reduce it so it maintains affordability. That's exactly what happened. I know we had to keep up with the Joneses, match what, Hartford's doing, match what Springfield's doing, match what West Leba's doing and all that. But that's derived from way back when, with all of a sudden, things aren't going well, union bangs up the wages, well, we're gonna leave, and then all of a sudden, everyone has to follow suit with that, and everyone takes a beating. Towns are like, can't do anything about this, it's the way it is, you have to eat it, but I'm just not willing to eat it. I'm not going to go into my spiel about what I think about the greed of the union. But I am definitely not pleased with them because I do not believe they give a crap about the people that have to pay the bill. They don't care. It's their bargaining unit, their people, only too bad, tough crap, and I don't like that. This is not about my feelings. This is about my communications with folks who just can't seem to afford it. It's going to be hard on them. And I'm just requesting, I'm just seeing if there's any way possible that even if we can get to 5, but 6, I just can't. I apologize. I don't want to be a wet cloth or whatever you want to call that over this deal, but I just can't stick with it. I'm sorry. That's
To
it.
get
That's
to
just what I
5,
stand.
we need 65.
Yeah, because the way it's talked about that money, 60, I would like to see the 63. And if that's possible, I don't know if it's, I don't know. I don't run the department. I don't run the department. I don't
Everything,
look at it.
everything is possible. Like I said, we can have no tax increase next year. These are numbers on a piece of paper that reflect the cost to provide the service.
And I just gave my comment on how I felt about it, and I'm
Mhm.
hoping that we can do that with minimal effect on service.
And I'm saying your suggestions will not yield any savings. The
I
scenarios
don't run
you,
the department.
I do, but I mean,
I've had to take a look at it. I've had to do it 4 times with my building on
Mhm.
how I got a lower budget, but I still had to maintain, the care of what I did, and I had to do some shifts, buy a product that was a little bit cheaper, do this. I had to make moves to keep the quality because I get paid by taxpayers also.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm throwing out there. I'm just seeing if there's any way possible, because I know our departments and I know everyone else care a lot about the community too. I'm speaking for the community constituents who come to me as a body member saying, holy crap, this is difficult. That's all I'm doing.
I think we're in, I mean,
It's got
yeah, I think we're in layoff territory. If that's where you want to go, we have to talk about laying people off, because I don't think there's enough there.
That's
I-
100% right. If that's what it is, it's not about unions being difficult or being greedy.
I know, I just throw it out there every now and then because I get hot.
This is why we have multiple people in the conversation. But I'm telling you, it's hard getting people even where we are. Lebanon pays all kinds of money. There's not enough bodies in the market to do all of this stuff. You make yourself less competitive, and this is real. This isn't kind of just, well, you better watch yourself. We lay off a cop. I don't know that we can honor our West Windsor contract. That's 115,000 in revenue to save 100. If we lay off a fire department person, I don't know that we maintain the level of ambulance revenue because we have a hard time already filling the staff that we have. That's another side of this. We get an awful lot of outside revenue. We have the staff that that generates some money. So
Is there any wiggle room with part-time staff? Is there any wiggle room with saying, okay, someone
Okay,
called in?
sorry, is it my turn real quick?
Yeah,
Um,
it was her hand up for a bit.
Sorry.
Emma,
This is very passionate because this is very difficult. And I'm not going to turn on my camera because I'm in my kitchen because my dogs are in my backyard. And also, Paul, I'm speaking as, a parent that in the middle of this conversation is distracted because I'm like, should I get a second job? I think I might need to. I understand how upset you are about wanting to make sure that we get the rate, our tax rates where it is, but I can't do math. What is the math for a 6% or a 7% or whatever it is, or even a 4% tax raise in this community? Like, what are we really looking at? What can we really do? And if we have to cut something, what are services that we can cut? I don't know. We might need to get creative about what services are if we're not talking about municipal employees. I think we need to stop looking at municipal employees and look somewhere else in the budget, like not their
That's the only
compensation,
place,
but where the
There's
money
nowhere.
that's the only
Sorry.
place to cut, Emma.
Say that again?
As far as services, what we're talking about, reducing services, we're firing, we would lay off positions to get to 120, 130,000 or $130,000 cut to be where Paul wants to be.
Or even 63, but part-time, maybe watching some overtime, not calling someone in for an OT shift, see how this could work out. Don't know.
So Kathy, you have your hand
Well,
up.
I think an answer to one of Emma's questions might be if Tom told us what the taxes would be on a $200,000 house at the 1.82 rate.
I'm gonna guess a $200,000 house is, we'll say $4,000.
Mine's
$4,000 extra?
Mine's, yeah, so yeah, no. Mine's assessed at 312, my taxes are 10.2, so a 5% increase on my house is going up $500 a year at the roughly $300,000 mark. Is the percentage is almost at
But-
300,000.
Let me, math is so hard. So you're,
Preach, Tom. That's why I'm asking these questions.
here we going. So you take a house, same kind of, let's say your property tax bill's 10,000. Okay, that's about what you're saying, right? So your property tax bill is $10,000, half of that is a school. So the municipal side is only 5,000. So if you get a 5% increase, that's $250, not five.
We're expecting the school to be higher than our.
But that's.
Not to be hard-nosed, that's their problem, not ours. And they get homestead rebates, which would be a nice benefit for us, but a lot of school tax gets paid by others. And don't, if I sound offensive, I don't mean to be, but I'm the one sitting in the room that's got to manage the numbers. And I'm the one that's been working with the department heads on these. And that's where I say, I can make the tax increase, whatever the number is that people want to support, but you have to tell me what you don't want. It isn't going to be found. Like when Kevin was in here, we can't get the part-time people that we need to cover shifts, that we budget to cover shifts. So we have to pay overtime to full-time people so that we have people here. The labor market is just a mess. Whether it's what you pay or not enough bodies, no matter what you pay, that's what makes it so difficult to look to labor to save anything, including all of the ancillary costs like the benefits that go along with it, because it is just white hot competitive. But if you don't want a service on a day of the week or after a certain hour, then we just don't have to have them. So that's where the service changes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Take a look at, maybe potentially let's look at the overtime. You have 5 people on the ship, someone calls out. I mean.
On emergency service overtime, most of that there's some budgeted based on, like for the police department or the fire department, you have a certain contractual obligation
There we
for,
go.
time off, right? So you got to fill your shifts. I mean, what do you say? Oh, the second shift guy is on vacation, so we're just not going to have police during second shift at all.
No, but that's a little bit extreme. Of course, we're gonna need a police officer.
But that's the scenario. That's the overtime.
I'm not talking about a shift off, but say you have 2 cops and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, say, listen, can we get away to the next shift? That someone's calling in, we have one, and we have someone going, something happens. That's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to look
Right.
at, what,
I think that they're
again, I don't run a department, but I'm seeing, well, what could be feasible? I'm requesting to see this, if it's possible, speaking with the department head, saying, let's see what we can do to get that to the magic number 5. That's what I'm requesting. Because I'm
All of
responding
that is done. That's like when all the department heads come in here and they explain what they're doing.
Yeah.
If we don't have to cover a shift, we don't. And there's a lot of shifts that don't get covered if we're having a particular struggle with staffing.
But there comes a point where you don't have the option of to cover it or not. There comes a time when you can say, well, let's have part-time people instead of full-time people. All of that stuff is incorporated into what happens every day.
Yep.
And there isn't money to be saved in there because all of that kind of thing is already being done. What is not being done is to say, you're on from 4 to midnight and somebody called out, you're on alone.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens anyway, but it's those structural changes in service that change, and it's meaningful that we can have a one-off where if we're having staffing and people are covering other people here to get that done. But if it was a structural change to our police department where we knew that there would be times that we weren't going to have coverage or that we were only going to have one, we have a contract with another town that says we will provide 24/7 911 and other services. If we have one person on or nobody on, we can't meet that obligation if somebody calls at a certain time.
Yeah.
So that's something that has to be considered. Does it mean like, oh my gosh, you cut somebody, we lose the contract? No, but it is something that we brought a person on so that we would know that we could meet that obligation. If we went down a person, we would be right where we were before we hired them and not sure that we would be able to meet that. And the same is with the ambulance runs that we talked about. If we lose a call, we lose $500. Most towns don't have a revenue side to their emergency service. Boom, come on. Just throw them out. Everybody give me a $60,000 idea. It's hard.
It's personnel. I mean, you're at the point where that's cutting a position. And, you know,
I went down a thing for, I think it was Jeffrey the other day about, you'll often hear in these conversations, why can't we just do a 3% or 5% across the board kind of thing, right?
I asked that, yes.
So just payroll, some will say it's a fixed, some will say it's a variable. I will say it's a variable cost and it makes up 50% of the budget. So we can change that. It's variable because we can eliminate positions. But you can't just go out and say, well, I'm going to pay you less. So that's 50% of the budget. We have $400,000 in debt service. We can't not pay debt service. That's only on our bond debt. You throw in the vehicles and all that kind of stuff. We have another 200,000 in that. We can't not pay that. Our healthcare premium, we can't not pay that. Our pension, we can't not pay that. When you go through all of the things that are fixed, if you want to count payroll as fixed, we're into the mid 70s percentile of what the budget is, so that leaves you, maybe $1 million. That includes everything else in the budget that, you can't not have anything from building maintenance here or gasoline in the cars or all that kind of stuff. Everything has something, but even those line items, we're not in a position to say, wow, gas went to $6 a gallon. Let's park all the ambulances and all the police cars in October. It just has to happen. Then there's not very many things here where we can say we're just going to suspend service until the new budget year.
Yeah, well, I will have to say that I am thoroughly ashamed with myself for having voting for the large increase that we did with pay instead of trying to chip it away and not asking the question, how much is this going to affect the budget? I own it. Because as a select board member, I should have known that it was going to be the 14th of this to 6, and I would have said, you want to leave, then go ahead and leave and move for the position. I own that, and I am absolutely pissed off at myself about that. But again, I don't see 5. I'm a no.
You were pretty clear during all that time that you had strong opinions. So I mean, it's why you take a vote of the board.
That's
Yeah,
why
but
there's a board, because I lost. I didn't
you
present
advocated.
hard enough. I advocated. I'm very disappointed with myself, and my heart is extremely heavy for folks that are gonna have a hard time with that. Just really trying to make ends meet, folks. Seriously, that's my thing. I can do it. I can pay it. I can work it. I really feel bad for folks that are struggling right now. I really do. Nothing to do with the departments or yourself or any of these folks there. I just have a heavy heart over this one. that I didn't work out of.
Couple of things. The first part, and I was gonna bring this up, but you already did all of it. Yeah, you guys voted for this increase way back when we signed the contract. So now this conversation is a moot conversation from that point in my mind. You know, it was a board decision. The board made it, and they didn't know what they were doing when they did to raise the taxes. Then they really should have thought it through. But I thought it was fairly well explained during that time that this is going to cost more money than taxes, and it's going to be a rough road coming. But it's 6 months later, and the road's here. Okay, and
I told you I own that.
But we're past that. So. And as far as talking about social security costs increase, it's not 3%. There has been no cost of living increases that have been substantial for social security for well over 10 years. They've always been so far off of what really costs to live that everybody's current benefits really should be easy numbers, double, more than double than what they're getting. But the Congress has chose to spend the money somewhere else, and instead of giving what they're supposed to do to fulfill their obligations. So those people are hurt even more. Unfortunately, what we don't have in this budget is a way for people who have a higher income to have a higher tax rate, because basically that's how it works on almost everything else. The income taxes for the state, the federal, everything everywhere. You have a balance to try to adjust for that. I don't know if that's even possible to do it at least. I mean, it would be extraordinarily complicated and probably understandably cost us more money to actually administer that than what we'd say been trying to do.
Well,
Right, because we're
It's-
talking, if you wanted to get it to where Paul wants to be, you're talking reasonably $120,000, right?
Right.
Out of the budget. It's going to cost a lot more than that to create a different type of tax plan.
you'd have to change the law.
Yeah, way back when I said, is there any way
Well,
possible we
as
can
know,
reduce
the state-
taxes for
the
15
state
years?
tells us what
And that was a
to do
no.
and not do. And so we really don't have a lot of things that we can do. But the reality is and this is extremely frustrating, I think, for us and the budget committee. I mean, I've spent a lot of hours in this thing. I've gone through every single line in this budget and looked at every single point. Do I think there's another 30,000 we can squeeze? I think there's places we could do it, and part of it is taking a look at some contracts like I'm talking about and other costs that are in there to reevaluate it. But I don't think, I mean, even that would be enough to make that big of a dent. That's not where the problem is. And I've been saying it all along. The problem is also is we haven't done anything to increase our tax breaks in a long time. So not only the employees finally come to the point and say, you got to pay market value, because that's basically what we're being told, unless we're being deceived.
Yeah, union.
But if that's market value, then it's market value. The problem is that the town also hasn't done anything to keep up with trying to grow its revenue streams to be able to keep up with these things. So the impact is this much. And the other big issue is I know this is important in its big parts, but it's nothing compared to what you're going to see when the school is. If you keep talking about the homestead exemption, but that doesn't apply to everybody. That'll help people at a fixed income. But people who are out working the 3 or 4 jobs, go get a 5th one, because that's not going to apply to you. They're not going to give you a penny off to school.
And that's where income sensitivity comes into play. And it's one of,
It has the school level.
well, at the state level, the state will do things that if you're a part of this group or you make this much money, you can pay less. And so they write their own rules and they get to do what they want to do. And kind of like what I said last week about the state makes more on income tax when you get a raise, like you say, right? It just, we're the only one that doesn't happen to. One could argue that people who are better off have more expensive property, so they pay more tax, but that's still proportionate, right? You're paying the same on everything. So whether it's Social Security says we're not going to pay a whatever amount, or the state says we think this is a really important objective and we're going to charge you for that, that happens. When it gets down to the bottom, that's when you start saying, should we lay off a cop?
because we don't have another revenue stream.
No.
We don't have anybody else to knock it back down to. It's all of these costs, and we all know that it happens, but we're at the bottom. This is where it is. We're the one bill that they get to vote on and they can see exactly how much it's gonna pay. Nobody in January 1st knows what their income tax from the state or the feds is gonna be at the end of the year. I mean, you may guess pretty close.
Yeah.
But so this is where we are. And that is kind of where I'm serious when I say everybody comes to me saying they want more. And why do the 60% of the people who said, I'm not concerned about my taxes, I'm concerned about services. If we gave it whatever everybody wanted, we would have $2 million a year in paving going on right now. We would be water and sewer things. We would have more recreations. So we'd have pickleball courts already. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot, like when you don't spend it, you don't see that you didn't spend it, right? So it's hard, and it's what every single community seems to be going through right now. The state, when they wrangle with their budgets, the governor says, I only want this much. The legislature says, well, we want all these things, but they got a bazillion line items, services that they can change. We got, rec, fire, police, and some ability to collect your taxes.
Yeah.
Wow. And
Yes.
on top of that, I want to find one of the unconscionable things that the state does is that they turn around and tax our ambulance service to take another percentage for themselves.
Right.
That enough is just never enough, and it's getting worse and worse.
That's brutal.
And I think the problem is the Vermont League of Towns plus all the select boards in the state are not bringing their representatives in and sitting them down every 3 months and saying, what are you doing for us? You got elected here. Give me an update. What's going on? How are you supporting us as the town? Because by the way, I don't know if you realize it, that's your job, is to represent us. And I don't see it.
Have you hung out at the State House too much?
What's that?
So doesn't sound like you've hung out at the State House too much, because I think they have I don't know how much that would do.
Oh, that's my point. Nobody's talking about the people in the state house. They're talking about their petty costs.
I don't care about the grassroots.
I mean, nobody runs against anybody.
That's right.
Kathy?
Yeah, I agree with Cliff. The other rub is when you go back to the state, there are 39 states in the United States that don't tax Social Security.
Yep.
But our wonderful state has this, the homestead adjustment, but included in that calculation for how much the adjustment is, they include Social Security in that total income. So I'm just saying, Social Security recipients get hit pretty hard rather than helped by the homestead adjustment.
Right.
Mhm.
We've got more to talk about.
You want a motion? Okay.
Well, I mean,
No?
but you're talking about money? What the process that I would like to do is, the way the question is worded on the warning is that a budget of this amount, X amount to be raised by taxes. So that number is the number less the outside revenue, and it does not include the voted separately items. I'm not asking for that number tonight.
Okay.
But if there was a consensus that says we want to see a tax increase of this percent, then I can at least fashion those numbers. I would guess that there is, we'll say $50,000 if I want to pull a number out of the air. That is just me going through and saying, I think gas is going to go down. The ambulances won't break. We're getting the new trucks. We won't pay for that. Like all I'm doing is changing the numbers like I did already. There was thought and purpose behind the original budget, thought and purpose behind the reductions already. And to do more of that kind of stuff, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. We just remember what this meeting sounded like if it goes the wrong way, that's what it is. So I'm not afraid of that. I'm just, being the devil's advocate on that. And if that's $50,000, that brings it down, into rounded to 5 instead
Yeah.
of rounded to 6. But when you're not putting anything in your reserve and we're already in this fiscal year, all those raises were unbudgeted and are in this year. I said that and I'm okay with that. And we are doing things in this year to make it work. We hope. But it's not like this is looking to be a flush year. So we'll see what the end of this year looks like, and then we'll have to see what the end of next year's looks. So the more that it keeps getting caught back without putting money into savings, eventually it's going to be time to pay. And if we would have,
Cliff. What I think we also have to be conscious of, because I think as of right now, this is not a hot topic with the residents of the town of Windsor that much. It's going to be come election day. And right before that, then, because everybody's the same way, they don't think about anything until right before they're doing it. We've had town budgets rejected in the past. So if we want to scrape this down to where there's absolutely nothing left, and then the budget fails, which it could, even at that, taking another 50 or whatever, then Paul, you're going to get your wish. And it could be a snowball effect. Our police department could get crushed. Our fire department could be hammered. The rec department may have to give you services.
That's not my wish.
There'd be nothing left. And
That's not my
what
wish.
we want to go with and take that chance that the public's going to say no and not factor that into what we're thinking. And then the other half of this is that if we, looking at it now, I'm not sure I want to serve in next year's budget committee, because you know what? We're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul last year, and then we're going to borrow again this year. And we're not paying interest on what we're borrowing, so to speak. We're just cutting things. And Windsor did that in the past and got ourselves in a very serious trouble with like fire equipment and other things, to where it was at a point where we could, we could respond to a fire because of the problems that we're having with everything. People are forgetting that. And if you continue to do that, that's where you're going to be.
Good point.
And we should have had a higher tax rate, but everybody knew we had COVID. Everybody knew everybody wasn't making as much money. There's not a lot of choices here. And every single choice I see is bad.
So what I believe Cliff is saying is throw it out there like this and see if it's accepted by the taxpayers. If not, then we,
You're saying where you would stand to vote. I'm saying where I stand to vote. I stand right where we are. I believe we're paying Tom. He's done this more than we have. He knows the departments. We don't know any of it. We're buddies with some of the guys. Brian probably has more rumors in any window from anybody else about it, but the actual day-to-day living in it and doing it, he's got a good perception of emergency services because he's involved. So
I wouldn't be doing my duty as a representative of constituents if I don't raise and say, can you please, or anywhere else that we can do this? The concerns of the folks is exactly what I was requesting. Definitely not looking for a
but we've come
reduction, but I was just seeing if there's anywhere else, anyway, anyhow. That's
down 50% from where we started at the increase.
That's always
And
high.
you can ask Mary, my wife,
I know.
and she said, well, where's it going to land? I said, it's going to be right around 6%.
Yep.
And that's before we started this. Because I think that's what, it's hard, but it could be tolerated.
Let's let Ryan have a chance here.
I question the $50,000 allotment to WIC. I think that's a big percentage point. I don't know. I appreciate what they say they get done. I don't know that that's where we need. I don't necessarily agree with that allotment to them, but I think we're at the point now. It's either are we okay with a 5.95% as a committee, and do we give do we or where are we gonna do on that, or do we talk about laying people off? I think that's where we're at. Either put forward on the 5.
Lay people off. I
am not for laying folks off.
Yeah, I just
we're
think that
stuck at
can't work.
5.95, and that's kind of where we're at.
Back again. I understand what you're saying, but then again, I've been the person preaching that we gotta increase our revenue stream and grow. If we're gonna cut WIC out of it, you're voting for saying, nah, this it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And then now yeah, it solves this week's problem, but it doesn't solve the rest of the year. So that's the trouble. Now, would I say that if this budget gets rejected and we got to cut some things, that we cut WIC down? The 30,000 that they're talking about, if you cut all 50 out and we get rid of the regional development and all the resources they bringing to the state and do that, that's the old analogy of cutting off your nose to spite your face, because you definitely don't expect anything new coming down here. And when we do have a project and we're gonna go and look for help, we're not gonna have the resources for it. So it's not gonna happen.
So we push forward on this 5.95, so that.
I agree with what I'm hearing from Cliff. I think I'm hearing that and I'm agreeing with you. I mean, let's put it out there.
My idea.
No, well, I don't know. I haven't had that idea. I mean, I haven't been able to think that way.
That much. I mean, I'm listening to everything, I'm hearing everything, and I don't really have much additional to say, but it was like, I agree, we need to find ways to bring in new revenue, but what does that involve? Like if you increase rec fees and stuff like that, that's affecting tax and everything, so.
Yep.
And then we all want a tax cut, but again, it's the services, so what services do you want to cut? So where can you bring in revenue if you can? I mean, we all know from last year being on the committee, you start high, we're gonna come down to a number. You've already made the cuts with all the places that make sense to do it. Like, let the people vote at this point, and it sucks, but I mean, I work in healthcare and I relate a lot of this to what I see. There is nothing easy right now. People can't get access to healthcare, people can't access to, and the thing.
Housing, anything,
With
yeah.
everything, house,
Food.
can't even get assistance for anything, so everybody's struggling right now. And like, how much lower can we go without firing somebody? And then Ryan, that leaves you on duty, right?
No,
Yours?
no.
I mean, who covers? So.
No, and for me, it's not, saying that, hey, we'll fire a policeman, but you have to put that in perspective. If we start chopping more, we're in layoff territory. And I think the snowball effect of that becomes, with everyone else's hiring, you don't want to be the place that just laid off whatever the position is. Rec, fire, police, wherever we think that is, that will have a exponential effect on our ability to negatively to hire people. I think that we push forward on the 5.95 and, it's,
See what the voters say.
I guess it's better than 13 or 14%, but.
I know it's better.
I agree with you too.
Yeah, I think we go with this.
Yep.
I don't know if people view this as positive or not. I certainly do. But we talk about what's going to happen with the reval. The concern that people have is my house is worth so much more. Now, the whole market has gone up, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be surprised if Windsor isn't disproportionately percentage up. And one of the things that always surprised me was the lack of interest in the increase in the valuation of your property, that whether you see that or whoever gets it next sees it. We send out a postcard every time somebody buys a new home in town. We go through a lot of postcards. There's a lot of new people here, and whoever is new, if they sold their house, if they bought a house from somebody in the last couple of years, somebody moved out and put some money in their pocket because the community's going the right way. And that costs this kind of money, and it may be a long-term plan, maybe one that you don't even want to think of. But if you pick up 30% on the value of your home, whether you go out and get a home equity loan to go on a vacation, don't do that. Or other ways to take that value, there is a return on the investment, is my point. The other part, and it's not meant to blow my own horn, but I was the mayor of a town for 6 years. When I left, the budget was less than the budget I inherited for the municipal budget. And I was also responsible for the elementary school. But I saw what government budgets did, and I ran my own business. And I had all the same feelings as everybody else does about what government does. But I ran my own business for 25 years without a whole lot of money. I think I'm pretty good at knowing what it takes to run a business. And we are in good contracts for heating oil, for gasoline, probably for phones. You may pull me out. I'll find somebody was lying in their pockets on our phone contract. But this is a lot of stuff happens here. And I'm really confident in the numbers. I am concerned about cutting the budget more because I don't think it's real. I think it is something that's going to come back and bite and may take a year or two, but I don't think it's real. So if that happens, that we aren't spending the money right, then let's talk about me in my contract, because that's really what you're paying me to do.
120 a year?
In the town? Cause she's, I think maybe 80.
Hey, we found our percentage.
I'm in a contract.
Oh.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
So why don't we
All right.
obtain a motion to go, right?
You don't have to make a motion. I get the message. What I tell you I'm going to do is that next week I am going to give you a budget that reflects the adjustments here.
Yeah.
And I will have Riley prepare the town meeting warning that reflects the numbers that you're going to see there. I will take the capital budget that you saw the other week, and I will remove all the funding for fiscal 25 from that budget. So you will approve a capital budget that adds no new funding to that. Those are the numbers that I need in order to meet the statutory obligations or have a meeting on the 31st if we don't do it next week.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Cliff, elder statesman. Appreciate it. Hope we have you next year.
Mostly
Hope
just-
we have everyone
he's
next
mostly just
year.
elder.
I really appreciate, I appreciate everyone. That's how this went. I might have been a little bit ticky, but that's the whole idea of having a committee and an open debate and an open discussion. So I really want to appreciate everyone's input, response to what I threw out there. I really appreciate it. Tom, great work with us. And with the department heads. That's all I have to say. I know, but I just,
We still have a couple of agenda
I
items.
do have a couple of
We
agenda
do.
items.
Town meeting 24 request for appropriations.
Right. So there's an updated list that is in your packet. Everybody who is on this list is asking for the same money that they asked for last year. Nope, everybody on this list. The library is not on, you're not, the library is on here, but it's a point of information.
Okay.
So I put the rules in your packet. It's on your table and it's online. And a few years ago, the select board said, it used to be if you wanted to get one of these things to appear on the ballot, you had to go out and get signatures, and the select board didn't take any action. You get the signatures, you're on the ballot, and the community can vote on whether or not they want to fund you or not. With COVID and I guess other reasons, getting volunteers to do it, getting those signatures was arduous. So a number of the organizations said, please don't make us get these signatures. So the select board at that time said, okay, if you ask for the same amount of money, you don't have to ask for signatures except for once every, I think, 5 years. I didn't read it close enough and I don't remember. So if you don't ask for more money, every so often it's got to come around and you got to get signatures. The first time you want to be on the ballot, you have to get signatures. And if you ask for more money, you have to be on the ballot. You have to get signatures. So everything that's on this list, the top section, those are all that have requested the same as last year. There's just for your information, that the Windsor Library submitted a petition that is validated, and they have asked for 4% more than they did last year, but the select board does not have the authority to take action on that. And then the bottom are just organizations that in the past have requested money and have not done so this year. Numerous attempts to contact them were submitted, and there was no response.
Could you read those?
The ones that haven't? Rachel's Kitchen for $5,000. Historic Homes of Runnymede for $12,500. Special Needs Support Center for $1,600, and Windsor Connection Resource Center for $5,000. For what that's worth, that's 12. So they will not be on the ballot, and that does factor into the tax rate. So that's a $20,000 reduction from last year.
That's it? They don't have a chance? It's too late?
There's statutory requirements, so when you have to get the request in, and that's passed.
Oh, wow.
Okay, all right. So do we need to do anything with this?
You need to vote, to include, the appropriation requests for, you can just say the slate, that has been presented, because the other ones are not being presented.
Okay, Ryan.
I'll make a motion to approve the organization's request for appropriation. The slate of organizations that are put in.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay. Let's see who's online. Tara, how do you vote?
Aye.
I vote aye.
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 Okay, so that motion is passed. Now we're moving on to the certificate of highway mileage for 2024.
This is one of those boilerplate things of government. This is going to the state and saying the amount of miles we have this year is the same as the amount of miles last year. That is the case. You just need to vote to say that that's true. I will say in the year ahead, there will be a number of changes. We'll finally get around to getting rid of Brook Road that washed away in 2011. And there's reasons for that. The whole Etta Fraser Drive reconfiguration in Marcoux Court. So there's a whole process that has to happen, public hearings and site visits and all that kind of stuff, and we'll get that finished this year. But this one is for last year, and as we go into this next year, there are no changes. So please adopt the certificate of highway mileage as presented for year ending February 10th, 2024.
I'll make the motion to adopt the certificate of highway mileage as presented.
Second the motion?
Okay. Tara, how do you vote?
Aye.
I vote aye.
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 Okay, that one's passed as well. All right, do we have a motion to sign orders?
Make a motion.
Second it?
Tara, how do you vote?
Aye.
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 All right, time for public comment for items not on the agenda. Okay, all set there. Board member comments. Tara?
I know this was a difficult budget season, but I do want to thank the people on the budget committee for their time and for all of the work that went into this, from all the department heads, from Tom, from everybody. That's all I got tonight. Stay safe tonight, everybody.
Thank you, Tara. I agree with Tara. It's been a hard meeting, but I think we have a plan to move forward with, and I'm grateful that we're not talking about cutting staff or services.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. I'm sorry that we have to head down the road that we're doing with the increase, but I don't think there's any other choice, and thank you for participating.
As a member of the select board and a member working with the budget committee, I believe we've done the best we can for communications, take it through. Tom's done an exceptional job going with the numbers on department heads, and let's leave it to the voters and see what direction this goes.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So do we have orders to sign?
You do.
So we will stay in session until those are signed, and you know what we're doing.
Sure. There's lines down here. This is a certificate of highway mileage. There's no particular order, just everybody sign there. Somebody needs to sign one of those. The yellow are orders that are new this week, so all of you please sign those. This purple slip, Ryan can do afterward. There were only 2 members last week and we need 3, so there we go.
Won't take them home.
Thank you, Paul.
Put the orders on once.
Yeah, please.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, just pick one of the lines there. How's your hill, Kathy? That's why I asked you. I figured,
Yeah,
What's that?
not plowed. It's not, it hasn't been plowed since 2 this afternoon. That's why yeah, I'm
one
really
day straight.
I really wanted to be there in person tonight. But I didn't dare because I was afraid I wouldn't get home.
Yeah, the power in this office is unbelievable. I thought, boy, if Kathy shows up in person, it could be a tough thing. Don't go up Day Street yet. All your other neighbors are plowed. I think they're probably out there. They went home for a while and then they're going back out by the
I don't
morning.
know.
It'll all be, yeah.
The worst part of it is my snowblower broke, so I had to finish shoveling by hand.
Watch yourself.
I was just gonna ask, is it still still snowing?
I can't tell.
For what it's worth, this is for the people who are here. The lights that are attached to the building have a problem. And we haven't been able to get a contractor to come in yet, but it's dark out there. I mean, the parking lot lights are on, but right on the steps going down, they're shoveled and sanded. Be careful.
They were very clear when I came in, the steps.
Are they daisy chained with a photo cell, or could it just be that photo cell that runs, that all of them
No,
kick off of?
This is, no, well, I don't know. I don't know that stuff. It's, there's a couple that, like, there's one on the side of the rec
Yeah.
center that makes all kinds of noise when it goes
Yeah.
on. And I guess, well, they're all on the same circuit, so it could be something there is screwing up.
Circuit
everything.
or a photo cell that they're all running off. And that thing, when the photo cell goes, I lost the whole side of my building. All it was literally the photo cell. It's pretty
Like a photo cell. that
Yep, when it gets
light?
dark, when it
Oh.
gets dark, it says turn on.
Oh, they don't. We still have one of those old kind of like
Oh, you
pull
get
out
the
the
time-
thing and put the little clicker
The
here.
timer, you get the
Yeah.
little thing.
Hey, Kathy, you have any updates on what our legislators have been doing? You seem to be pretty plugged in.
Well, I got a pretty exciting thing going on with the Northfield rep, Ann Donahue. We're doing some research on cemeteries, but the one thing that the House just approved, the safe injection sites. They've approved $2 million for safe injection sites, and apparently it's going to be pilot programs. They haven't chosen where yet. What was the other one? Well, that's all. I'm tired. I can't think of the other one.
I heard maybe Burlington and Bennington.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Definitely Burlington, I would expect.
So what is the definition of a safe injection? What is the definition of a safe injection?
There's medical professionals and they allow people to inject.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Ryan.
It's a quasi medical facility that they allow people to inject.
There's someone there 24/7 to supervise you and to basically Narcan someone if need be. Places for people to dispose of their needles, and I believe to also get clean needles.
They're gonna fund 2 sites. One was in, I don't know if it doesn't sound like it's definite, but
Yeah.
Bennington and Burlington. are the
Okay.
two.
They still have to pass the Senate, get it ratified.
Soon that
I was
gets
just
either.
talking Burlington.
Orders done.
Yep.
Orders are done, so I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 8:50. Done.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I struggle with that safe injection.